Pew, pew, pew. Ragnok ErgoStrike mouse, a vertical mouse that looks like a gun. Your trigger that so happens to be the left click, and then you have the right click right there. Let's look at the box. A manual, pads to put under, pre-installed with the set already, so you have an extra. A Type A to Type C cable braided, a converter from USB-C to USB-A. And though you have nothing else under the mouse, a USB dongle. This is battery powered, so you can use it like any other wireless mouse. We are looking at 170 regular right now as of the making of this video. It is 130 on their website. Good to know that you can find this one discounted from time to time. Once you power it, you have this little RGB. It looks really nice. You know, it's faint. It's definitely discreet. A bulkier mouse, but it also is one that is quite comfortable to hold. Productivity vertical mouses, that's kind of what this feels like. But of course, when it comes to your left click, you have a trigger. It holds very much like if you were holding a small weapon, like the James Bond kinds that you see in the movie.
The ErgoStrike 7.
Very nice, Q. And in terms of comfort, yeah, it definitely feels good. That's one of the perks. You also have this little bump here for your thumb to land, and you have these two extra buttons. This is also an extra button, and of course you have your wheel mouse that clicks. Let's talk about the sensor. We have a PixArt Paw 3395 optical for 26,000 dpi. The dongle or wired actually will achieve up to 1000 hertz pulling rate. They don't seem to say anything specific on the website, but if I push these buttons, the triggers right there, they all feel like a micro switch. I mentioned something extra a moment ago, and this is going to be this right here. You actually have a little bit of a rubber here that you can remove, and this essentially, people are able to install Lego pieces on top of that. The cool part here is the recoil. If you put it on off and you push your button, nothing is happening. But if you push it on one, every time you hit, there's a little rumble. Now you see that the mouse itself doesn't move, but if I remove the rubber cap, you'll see that the little Lego looking piece has a little bit of a bump. And if you put it 2x, really what it is semi-automatic. So oh man, this is hilarious. It's just gonna recoil. Now, of course, you don't have to use that if you don't want, but gaming doesn't have to always be about being the most competitive there is. Sometimes it's just about having fun, and maybe you're looking for something that is different, and that definitely does it. At the same time, and as someone that loves haptics, one thing I actually like with the system here is that you do feel the shake, but the shake feels contained. And what I mean by that is it's not gonna go all over the place, making your mouse shake, potentially making you miss. Now, I'm not saying that this will improve your aim. I don't see why that would, or in any capacity that it would, but I also don't think it will affect it. Learning to master the ergonomics and the vertical style is probably going to give you a much better advantage versus putting the recoil on and potentially hurting your aiming. And this is something that is cool, because if I'm to use this, again, you hear it, you definitely hear it. But the rumble, even though I feel something, it happens more in that range, and in that range, it doesn't make the mouse shake. Definitely something I think is cool and well achieved to maintain that rumble effect, but not make it a hindrance to your experience. At the same time, one could absolutely make the argument that this is a gimmick. And it is. I would agree, this is gimmicky. I mean, chances are you might not use it. There is one thing I found particular with the One X is if you're playing a game, and it's going to be very important for you to know, did I actuate? The One X is interesting for that, because really, the moment you push it and you do get the actuation, it will give you that quick little recoil. But if you don't, if, for example, you keep your trigger hot, but you don't push it necessarily all the way, you won't feel a rumble. So it's a great way to understand the range that you have. For example, I can push a little bit and not hit the button, but if I push just a little bit more, there it is. There's potentially a quality for specific types of games or specific types of players where the One X could be interesting by having that haptic feedback, adding that sensory layer on top of everything you already have to let you know that yes, indeed, you have actuated your button. So I think that's interesting. Without further ado, let's have an audio test, and then the software, and of course my impressions playing with this gun mouse. For the software, once you download and install the app, you're going to be greeted with the splash screen, and when you click on the ErgoStrike, you'll have your bunch of different buttons that you can remap. The left click cannot be remapped, the right click can, the wheel, forward, backward, and fire key. Per number, you have them on the diagram here. You can restore, import, and export profiles. You can address the debounce time for your keys. And when it comes to 2 to 6, which are remappable, you can do a variety of things, changing to specific clicks, but also changing the pulling rate on the fly. You can have a turbo key, a combo key, and yes, it can take keyboard inputs if you want. You can disable the button altogether, have scroll up, scroll left, DPI change. You also have a DPI button at the bottom of the mouse, by the way, so you may not need that on some of your buttons, but if you change your DPI often, you can do that, or of course you can remap to something else. You have multimedia, and you also have macros. Now, when it comes to macros, you can record them up top right here, but if we go to the second option, you can address the DPI, you can address the pulling rate, so 125, 250, 500, or 1000 Hertz, and that goes for both wired and wireless. And then you have a bunch of other settings. You can address your low power or high power, you can have your lift readings, you can have a high performance mode, the ripple control, angle snap, motion sync, and then of course your DPI light effect that you can change from steady and breathing. If looking at macro, you can record your macros. So I can't tell you exactly how many keys that is, but I would say probably somewhere between 30 to 40 keys, give or take. You can modify your down, your up, your release time, hold time. Then looking at the light effect, right now I'm using the rainbow stream, but you can have a single color breathing, solid rainbow, and neon, which rotates as a single band. You can turn off the lights while moving and have them turn off if the mouse is not being used after a certain amount of time. And last but not least, you can address your language, update your mouse, have the software run on boot, and there's also a long distance mode. Now, a lot of mouses these days have a web app. Unfortunately or fortunately, that is not the case here. Now, some of you may want to know, when I originally powered the app, it did trigger my user access control as a warning. I allowed it through, but some of you may be concerned with that, so something to keep in mind. Let's talk about when using it. First, I took the ErgoStrike 7 in a fast-paced shooter, Dead Zone Rogue, just to get acquainted, and especially when talking about fast movements and fast aiming and, just juking left and right to hit your target. There's definitely a little bit of a learning curve, especially since I've never used a vertical mouse for playing games. So there's an adjustment, that's for sure, but it's quite comfortable. That's, again, one of the perks. And it's, despite the adjustment curve, it's impressive how you're rapidly almost to your full potential right from the get-go. That's something I did appreciate, but there was definitely a little bit of an adjustment, especially when thinking of the extra buttons as well. When it comes to the track wheel, I find that it's easy. You just juke your thumb up and you easily do whatever you need to do. The fire button, so the one that is next to the trigger and right click, is also very fast to actuate. The bottom two are the ones that are gonna maybe require a little bit more thinking of when trying to actuate, especially if you use these extra buttons a lot. But it's not that they're hard, it's just that they're a little out of the way, so you do have to make a bigger movement to reach them quickly if needed. But really, if you make the habit of leaving your thumb on them, technically that doesn't stop you from having your trigger and right click being easy to actuate. After doing something a little more, fast-paced, I wanted to go more into an immersiveness kind of game, and that's where I shifted to Half-Life 2 RTX, which definitely that was the experience where it shined the most as far as I'm concerned. It was really, really fun playing with this mouse because immersiveness, especially in a title like Half-Life 2, is just, it feels so good. It really brings me in. In fact, there were times when I even felt like my heart palpitations increasing a little bit, even though I've played this game a dozen times before. I knew exactly what was coming around the corner, but it's that little thing in the back of your mind that puts you a little more into that space. And I really think this is potentially an undervalued quality of this product. The immersiveness element, and in my opinion, is something that will shine for people that want to get this to feel something as opposed to trying to get better. I don't think that's the product for that. It's not the product that will make you be faster on your aim or your shooting. It's really more for immersiveness. there is something that was challenging, and I didn't really think about that too much with Half-Life, but especially the previous game, is it's easy to do your front and back movement. The struggle comes when going left to right. Oftentimes I found myself wanting to rotate my wrist as opposed to just moving my arm left and right. With a mouse, even though you still have to move left and right, I find that it's easier to control with the wrist, whereas here, because this is heavier, this is bulkier, it takes more space, it was a little more challenging to do. Never to the point that it would be a hindrance, but it's definitely something I noticed as an adjustment once again. Now, another thing is, this is not light, right? In comparison to a lot of those light mouses. So lifting up the mouse did require, it made me realize I was doing it, whereas with a mouse, I don't feel it anymore. But that is also something I feel like over time, if you play a lot with that product, you'd probably get accustomed to. For me, there was definitely a shift going from lightweight mouses to something like the ErgoStrike 7. Anyways, last but not least, I wanted to go into a game that would be more representative of what it is to just navigate the system as a whole, and it was like, again, it's one of those areas where you think, oh, I know I would be more efficient with a mouse. I know I would, click exactly where I need to click. But nonetheless, especially if playing non-FPS shooter games, it was absolutely okay to work with. The right click comes very easy, particularly the right click. But take, for example, there was this mini game where I had to click at different areas on the screen, and usually I just achieve perfect through and through. With the ErgoStrike 7, I was not able to do that. The first time was in fact quite abysmal in terms of performance for fast aiming, but when training a little bit, after I want to say about 5-6 times, I achieved a score that was much better and maintained it after that as well. Again, there's an adjustment curve. It's not like it's impossible, but it's trading off a little bit of speed, efficiency, and also I want to say comfort, right? Because we've been using, if you're a mouse user and you've been using it for decades, there's a familiarity that is well within your subconscious. Whereas with the ErgoStrike, there's an adjustment. Now, would I use that on a day-to-day basis for every game? Well, I'll kind of answer that with the conclusion, so let's move towards it. And so there it is, the ErgoStrike 7 by Ragnok. I think it would be a phenomenal impulse buy, a gift purchase, especially someone that does not necessarily go for sweaty, try-hard kind of gameplay. Like if you're trying to play your, single player campaign shooter and you want something that adds to the mix, adds this layer of immersiveness, this is better than I originally expected it was going to be. It is expensive. Like what you get in terms of having a good quality mouse for that kind of price can be pretty up there. You really buy this because you have an intention for immersiveness. You have an intention for having something that will just push you a little further into that FPS experience. And of course, it's not exclusively good for that, but like I wouldn't see myself playing an RTS with this. Like, what's the point, right? I actually like what this product is doing. I just think it's a little expensive for something that is, in my opinion, gonna end up being very specialized. It's like saying I'm buying a wheel to play Gran Turismo on my PS5. It's that one thing that you'll pay a fair sum for a handful of games, and every now and then you're gonna pop it out because you're playing that brand new FPS campaign and you want something that will bring you into that experience. But the moment you want to go like try hard and sweaty, even though I don't think this hurts the aim necessarily, I believe it's not even so much that the shape is better or that, it's just that for the price, the quality that you get, it's gonna outperform this one. It's gonna outshine this one. Like for example, you're gonna have a lot of 8K polling rate mices on the market. Now this does very well in the confines of what it does, but there is just better for that price point. So I think this is a great addition for someone who plays a lot of FPS games, but you'll still want your mouse. Don't buy this thinking, oh, I'm never gonna use anything else. You might, I wouldn't. It's a fun gadget to have. And so there it is. I'd like to know your thoughts. I'd like to know, what do you guys think when you see this? Do you think it might be cool? Do you think it might be fun? Would you like to even try gaming with this? Novelty kind of thing that I'll pop out every month or so when I'm playing. This is not what I'm going to use to do my, Excel charts or anything like that. It's definitely not to say that you couldn't, because it is still a very, very good mouse. I don't know. I don't see myself controlling my operating system, always aiming at a gun. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Leave your comments in the comment box. As always, consider hitting the like if you enjoyed this video, and to subscribe to not miss any future one. My name is Clef, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.